In this lecture, we are going to complete our discussion about the electrostatic fields in dielectrics by understanding the continuity equation and the relaxation time. After that, we will start our discussion about the boundary conditions of the electrostatic fields. So let us start our discussion about the continuity equation and the relaxation time. So to understand the continuity equation, first we need to know the principle of charge conservation. And the principle of charge conservation says that the time rate of decrease of charge within a given volume must be equal to the net outward current flow through the surface of the volume. So, the definition of the continuity equation can be written in mathematics form or in mathematical form by the expression 11.1. You see that the time rate of decrease of charge here, time rate of decrease here means the minus is representing the rate of decrease of charge, and it is the time rate because it is ddt of qn. So time rate of decrease of charge within a given volume must be equal to the net outward current flow. Here I out is the net outward current flow through the surface of the volume. So 11.1 is the mathematical representation of the continuity equation. Here in this expression 11.1, Q in is the total charge enclosed by the closed surface. Now we are going to apply the divergence theorem to this second part of this equation 1. You can see that we know that using the divergence theorem we can get the relationship of the surface charge or surface integral to the volume integral. So here equation 11.2 shows that the surface integral, or we can say the closed surface integral j dot ds equals to the open volume integral of del dot j into dv. Now by combining these two expressions, or before going to combine these two expressions 11.1 and 11.2, let us understand this, what is this ddt of qn. So minus of ddt of q in equals to minus of ddt volume integral of rho v dv. So q enclosed, so that can be calculated as rho v dv. So from that we will get the expression 11.3, that is minus of volume integral dou dot t of rho v dv. Now substituting this expression 3 or 11.3 and 11.2 in equation 1. So here that expression 3 and the expression 2 we are going to apply here in this expression, so that we will get that volume integral of del dot j dv equals to minus of volume integral of dou dot t of rho v dv. So here you see that this is the expression we got, and from that if the integrands of the left hand side and the right hand side are same, here it is same, so from that we will get the expression del dot j which is equals to minus dou dot t of rho v, that is 11.4. This expression 4 is called the continuity of current equation, or just simply it is said that it is the continuity equation. Now from this continuity equation, one point we should remember that this continuity equation is derived from the principle of the conservation of charge, and essentially it states that there can be no accumulation of charge at any time. Now for the steady current, that steady current means no charge accumulation will be in the particular volume, so dou dot t of rho v will be equals to 0. For that, for steady currents, this dou dot t rho v equals to 0, that means del dot j will be equals to 0. What is the meaning of that? it means the total charge leaving a volume is same as the total charge entering it. So we can understand by pictorial view or by imagining that a pipe, if you consider a pipe is given and through this pipe the current is flowing. Now imaginarily you will consider one volume. So if we consider a volume of dV, the volume of the pipe, the current entering to the volume will be equals to the current coming out of the volume. If it happens, then del dot J will be equals to 0, and for that is the case which we will get for steady currents. That means the current which is flowing steadily, that means the total incoming current to the volume will be equals to the total outgoing current. Now that is all about the continuity equation, and this topic, that is the continuity equation or this expression, mainly 11.4, will be it is very much important when we will study the displacement current density. Now we are going to move the relaxation time, that is one property of the dielectric material. So here the relaxation time, to derive the relaxation time, first we are going to consider the point form of the Ohm's law, that is J equals to sigma E, that is expression 11.5, and the Gauss law, which we know, the Gauss law, that is del dot D equals to rho V and D equals to epsilon E. So del dot epsilon E equals to rho V or del dot E equals to rho V by epsilon. That is the expression 11.6 Gauss law. So Ohm's law and Gauss law is represented by equation 5 and 6. Now putting equation 5 and 6 into equation 11.4, here you see that this expression J and del dot E, we are going to put that expression in 11.4, that is at the continuity equation. So here del dot J means del dot sigma E. So this del dot sigma E, or you can say here del dot sigma E, and we know the expression of E, del dot E. So del dot E means we will get the expression rho V by epsilon. So if you multiply this sigma, we will get that expression. So and this expression is equals to minus of dou dot T of rho V, that we can get from the expression 6. Now from the second and the third part, we will get the expression 11.7. You see that this is minus, so if you take in the left hand side of the equal sign, then it will be dou dot T of rho V plus sigma rho V by epsilon, that is equals to 0. Now this expression, you can see that from this expression 7, we can say that this expression is a linear differential equation. So to solve this expression, we need to separate the variables. So by separating the variables in equation 7, what we are getting, that you see that dou dot T rho V, that is equals to minus of sigma rho V by epsilon. From that we will get dou rho V by rho V equals to sigma by epsilon into dou T. So here you know it is the standard form dx by x. From that we can find out the expression. So integrating both the sides, we have here integration of dx by x, that is ln x. So from that we will get ln rho V, that is equals to, here you see that minus of sigma by epsilon into T, because integration of del T or dou T, that is T, and the initial value, that is ln rho naught. Here it is written ln rho naught is the constant of integration. So from this expression we are getting the expression that ln rho V minus ln rho naught, that is equals to minus sigma by epsilon into T, and from this by simplification we will get this expression, and from that we will get rho V by rho naught, that is equals to e to the power of minus sigma by epsilon into T. So finally the expression of rho V which we are getting, that is equals to rho naught into e to the power of minus T by TR. Here the TR, you know how to calculate the TR, that is epsilon by sigma, and this TR is called the time constant. And here rho naught is the initial charge initial charge density at time t equals to 0. In this expression 11.9, you can see that. Now this expression 11.9 shows that the introduction of charge at some interior point of the material results in a decay of volume charge density rho v. Now how? From the equation we can understand this one, that this is the expression, and initially at t equals to 0, the initial charge at the dielectric material we can consider rho naught. Now if we apply some extra charge at the interior of the dielectric material, then from this expression we can see that this extra charges will propagate, or it will decay, and it will move towards the surface, and the total charge density, total volume charge density will decay exponentially. From this expression we can understand, and that is written here. Now this point shows that associated with the decay in charge movement from the interior point at which it was introduced to the surface of the materials. Now this time constant Tr is actually known as the relaxation time, or it has another name, that is called the rearrangement time. So that means the charge which we have introduced at the interior of the dielectric material, it will be rearranged. These charges will rearrange themselves and it will move to the surface, so that the total volume charge density will decay. So the definition of the time constant, or the relaxation time, is written in the red line. You can see that the relaxation time is the time it takes, that means the charge takes, it takes a charge placed in the interior of the material to drop to e to the power of -1, which is equals to 36.8% of its initial value. So this is the relaxation time. That means the time the charge requires to reach the 36.8% of its initial value is called the relaxation time. And how we get this 36.8%? That means e to the power of -1, actually we will get, that is the percentage we are getting. E to the power of -1 is 0.368. So if we consider t equals to this small t equals to tr, then this tr and tr cancel out, that will be -1. So from that we will get the expression, that is it is the 36.8% of its initial value. So this is all about the definition of the relaxation time, and as well as this is the completion of the dielectric material, or the electrostatic field in dielectric materials. So in the last previous lectures we have started to study the electrostatic field in dielectric materials. So this is all about the electrostatic field in the dielectric materials. Now up to this point of our discussion, we have considered the electrostatic fields, that is propagating in the homogeneous medium. That means if we consider the electrostatic field is propagating through the free space, it is only about the medium is only free space. If we consider this is the conductor, then the medium is only conductor. If it is dielectric, then the material or the medium is only dielectric material through which the electrostatic fields are propagating, and for that what changes we are getting, that we have studied. Now what happens if the electrostatic fields propagate from one medium to another medium, say the dielectric medium to the free space, or dielectric medium to the conducting medium, like that if it happens, then what will happen, that we are going to understand, and that is called the boundary condition. Here what is boundary condition? You can answer the question what is boundary condition by the first point here, that if we consider the electric field exists in a region which consisting of different media, as I said, then the conditions that the electric field must satisfy at the interface which separates the medium are called the boundary conditions. Now why we need to study the boundary conditions? Actually, if the electrostatic field, the information about the electrostatic field is known to us on one medium, then we can calculate the electrostatic field in the other medium by using these boundary conditions. So that is written here. These conditions, that means the boundary conditions, are helpful to determine the electric field on one side of the boundary if the electric field on the other side is known. So the boundary conditions we are going to consider here is the three cases we are going to study. The first boundary conditions we are going to calculate where we have the two medium, that is dielectric medium, dielectric 1 and dielectric medium 2, and this is connected, and electrostatic field is propagating through one dielectric medium to the another dielectric medium. The second boundary conditions, second part, we are going to calculate the boundary conditions about the conductor and the dielectric medium, and the third one we are going to consider the conductor and the free space. Actually, first we are going to study the boundary conditions about the dielectric medium, because this is the generalized case. If we study this generalized case, then the boundary conditions for the point 2 and point 3 will be easier to calculate, because these two are the special cases of case 1, that is the dielectric medium. So let us start. To calculate the boundary conditions, first we need to know 2 points. Number 1, the Maxwell's equations which we are going to use in this case, and this Maxwell's equations is 11.10 and 11.11. That is the line integral of E dot dl equals to 0, and that is and the second one is the surface integral of D dot ds equals to q enclosed. Another thing, that is the first point we need to remember always. Another thing we need to remember, that the electrostatic field must be decomposed, or we need to decompose the electrostatic field in the normal component and the tangential component. So here E is the electrostatic field which is propagating from medium 1 to medium 2, and that electrostatic field can be decomposed in normal component, and we need to get the normal component of this electrostatic field and the tangential component. So E equals to En plus Et, where En and Et are the tangential and the normal components of E respectively. Now let us start to find out the boundary conditions on the dielectric material. So first we are going to consider the electric field E is existing in a region that contains the two different dielectrics. So here you see that picture 1 and picture 2. First we are going to consider picture 1, and this line is representing the surface or interface between two dielectrics. The upper one is the dielectric 1 and the lower one is the dielectric 2. The characteristics of dielectric 1 and dielectric 2 is represented by epsilon 1 and epsilon 2. Here epsilon 1 is the epsilon naught, epsilon r1, and epsilon 2 is represented by epsilon naught, epsilon r2. So here we are considering the electrostatic field is propagating from medium 2 to medium 1. Although you can consider that this is the continuous flow of electrostatic field from medium 2 to medium 1, but for better understanding we have divided this electrostatic field in two parts, that is E2, which is representing the electrostatic field in medium 2, and E1 is the electrostatic field in medium 1. Although these two are the continuous, you can say the continuous electrostatic field E. So now the second point, the second point here is we need to decompose this E1 and E2. So E1 equals to E1n plus E1t, and E2 is decomposed as E2n plus E2t. So one point is complete. Now we are going to apply the expression 11.10. 11.10 on this diagram, and 11.11 we are going to apply in the second picture. So here, to apply the Maxwell's equation, that is the 11.10, that is the line integral of E dot dl equals to 0. First we have considered, just like the Gaussian surface, we have considered a path, a rectangular path A, B, C, D, and the height BC is considered as del H and the length is considered as del W. Now, the closed path we have considered A, B, C, D. Now we are going to apply the 11.10, that is the expression line integral of closed line integral of E dot dl equals to 0. Now, suppose we want to move a point charge through this path A to B, B to C, C to D, D to A. In this closed path, we want to move a point charge. And as the electrostatic field is moving, we have the electrostatic field, then we need to do some work. So the total work done to move the charge, point charge from A to B, B to C, C to D, D to A, we need to calculate that one. And this calculation can be done by the Maxwell's equation, that is the line integral of E dot dl equals to 0. So here we need to know the component of E and the path through which the charge is moving. So first we are considering that A to B. Here A to B, this length is dl length is we can consider del W, and the electric field is E1T. So here you see that E1T del W, and dot will not be there because E1T and the path is in the same direction. So E1T and the dl length will be in the same direction. That means it is moving tangential component. If you consider, it is moving in the same direction. So cos theta is 0, that means it is 1. So we got E1T equals to del W. Now we will move from B to the point surface of this surface, B to this surface. So this distance is del H by 2, total distance is del H, so half distance is del H by 2. And in this case, you see that the electrostatic field is moving in the opposite direction, E1n. So we need to write that minus of E1n into del H by 2. So that is why minus sign is given. Again, we need to move the expression. You see that from this interface to the point C, so del H by 2, and the equation, you see that now we need to consider the component of electrostatic field, that is E2n. It is also in the opposite direction. We are moving from B to C, but electrostatic field is moving. That is the normal component we will get from in this direction. That is, it is moving upward, so it will be negative. So that is why minus of E2n into del H by 2. Now we are moving from C to D, and you see that from C to D, if we take this del W, dl is represented by del W, and the tangential component of E to T, you can see that it is in the opposite direction. So here also we will get the negative sign. So minus of E to T del W. Similarly, if we move from D to this surface, we will get E to N, same direction, into del H by 2 plus del H by 2 into E1n, because this is E1n is also in the same direction, D2A. So here the last two term we get E2n into del H by 2 plus E1n into del H by 2 equals to 0, because it is equals to 0. Now you see that this E1n del H by 2 and the last term E1n del H by 2 cancel out. The third term, that is minus of E2n del H by 2, and fifth term plus En del H by 2, that will be cancelled out. So what we have only E1t del W minus E2t del W. So del W E1t minus E2t equals to 0. Now from that expression we will get that E1t equals to E2t. So here you see that from this expression we are getting this 11.16. So this E1t equals to E2t is one of the boundary conditions which we have derived now. So Et, actually the arrow is not given here, that means it is the magnitude of Et. You see that tangential component vector mod of tangential component of electrostatic field Et. So E1t, it is actually the magnitude. En, it is obviously the magnitude of this En vector. So this E1t equals to E2t. This E1t and E2t actually the magnitude of E t and E1t and E2t, vector E1t and vector E2t. So from this expression, we can understand that the tangential component of E are same on the two sides of the boundary condition. So if the electrostatic field has, if we get the information about the tangential component of the electrostatic field in medium 2, that value we are going to use in medium 1 also, because from this boundary condition we can say the tangential component of the electrostatic field will be same in medium 1 and medium 2. So one conditions we got. In other words, Et undergoes no changes on the boundary and it is said to be continuous across the boundary. So fine. Now we are going to use the Maxwell's second Maxwell's equation, which we have seen earlier, that is from the Gauss law, that is the surface integral, closed surface integral d dot ds equals to q enclosed. So before going to apply this expression, we need to replace this E in terms of d, that is the flux density that we are going to see here. We know d equals to epsilon naught epsilon E, and this d can be also decomposed in the tangential component and the normal component. So d is equals to dt plus dn. Now we know we have just derived E1t equals to E2t. So here you see that E1t can be replaced by D1t by epsilon 1 equals to D2t by epsilon 2. Now from this expression 17, what information we are getting is that D1t undergoes some changes across the interface, because you see that D1t is not equals to D2t. Why? Because E epsilon 1 and epsilon 2 are not same. So this D1t and D2e are not same. So the tangential component of electrostatic field, that electric field, will be same in medium 1 and medium 2, but the flux density of the electrostatic field will not be same in medium 1 and medium 2. So this one is, you can say, the another condition of the boundary conditions of the electrostatic field, which is moving from medium 1 to medium 2. Hence, D1t is said to be discontinuous across the interface. Fine. Similarly, applying equation 11.11, that means the closed surface integral of d dot ds equals to q enclosed to the pillbox, that is the cylindrical Gaussian surface. We can see that here the cylindrical Gaussian surface. Here we are going to apply the expression. Now you see that here also, first we need to decompose that d1 and d2, that is actually the flux density d, if you consider the same flux density is moving from medium 1 to medium 2, no problem is that. But to understand better, we have considered that medium 2, in medium 2 flux density is d2 and medium 1 is d1. So first we are going to decompose d1, that is d1t and d1n, and d2 is decomposed as d2n and d2t. Now to use the Maxwell's equation, we have considered a Gaussian surface here, and in this Gaussian surface we know in the side of this Gaussian surface the flux density will be 0, because that we have studied earlier that this Gaussian surface, for this Gaussian surface only the normal component of the d flux density will be, we will get the tangential component will be 0. So only we have to consider the normal component. So what we will get, that is d1n into del s plus, here in this case, minus d2n into del s, that is equals to charge enclosed q. So that we will see. So if you see this diagram, and if you can remember this, so we are going to see that one here. You see that the height of the Gaussian surface we have considered del h, which is tends to 0, that means very very small. So del q is the charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface, that is on the surface of the interface, that is the charge, we have considered the charge present at the interface, uh, which is enclosed by the Gaussian surface, that is del q, and that can be written as surface charge density rho s into the area del s, that is equals to the upper surface, that is dn, it is in the upper direction, so d1n into del s, because d dot ds, so ds is represented by del s and d is the normal component, so d1 into del s, and if you consider the lower surface, then d2 will be in the upward direction, so it will be negative, because we are moving, d will be moving in the, dn is moving in this direction, but the d del s is moving in the opposite direction, so that is why minus of d2n del s. So from that what we are getting is that d1n minus d2n del s cancel out, so we will get rho s. Here this rho s will be equals to 0. Now the question is why. The main point is that actually we have considered some free charges present at the interface of this boundary of dielectric material. Some free charges. Why we have considered that? Because we are going to apply the Maxwell's equation that says the surface integral of d dot ds equals to q enclosed. So q enclosed is the charge. But in actual case, if we consider the pure dielectrics, true dielectric medium, the surface in the at the surface of, or at the interface of the dielectric medium, no free charges will be present, so actually this rho s will be actually 0. So in general actually we get the expression d1n equals to d2n, that is equals to rho s, but practically this d1n, or theoretically, actually it is not practically, theoretically d1n equals to d2n, because rho s equals to 0 for dielectric medium. That is written here. It should be noted that 11.18 is the based on the assumption that D is directed from region 2 to region 1, and expression 11.18 must be applied accordingly. So all these expression which we have derived till now will be applicable only if we consider the electrostatic field or the flux density is moving from medium 2 to medium 1. Remember that. That is the main point we need to remember. So here rho is equals to 0. So why rho is equals to 0 I have discussed. So as rho is equals to 0, d1n equals to d2n. So we can see that the normal component of the flux density is same in medium 1 and medium 2. So that is written here. So the normal component of D is continuous across the interface, that is dn undergoes no changes at the boundary. Now we know again d equals to epsilon e. So if d1n if we have here, so that can be written as epsilon 1 e1n equals to epsilon 2 e2n. So that can be written as you can see that e1n by epsilon 2 equals to e2n by epsilon 1, or you can consider the first expression also. Now you see that the normal component of the flux density is same in medium 1 and medium 2, but the normal component of the electrostatic field or electrostatic field intensity is not same in medium 1 and medium 2. So that is written here. This equation 20 shows that the normal component of E is discontinuous at the boundary. So from equation 16 to equation 19 or equation 20 are collectively referred to as the boundary conditions, and they must be satisfied by the electric field at the, as it is separating two different dielectrics. So these are the boundary conditions which need to satisfy, and if we know the information about the boundary conditions, then this we have derived, so we know the boundary conditions. So if the information about the electrostatic field in medium 2, that means the dielectric 2 is known to us, then we can easily calculate the electrostatic field in medium 1. So as mentioned earlier, the boundary conditions are usually applied to find the electric field on one side of the boundary if the electric field on the other side is given. Now, beside this, we can use the boundary conditions to determine the refraction of the electrostatic field across the interface, and this refraction of the electrostatic field we will study in the next class, and we will continue to study the boundary conditions in the next class. So that is all about the today's class, students. If you have any queries, you can ask me, or you can also write in comment box also. So thank you very much.